Have I got another game? So this one, if you can't tell by the title already, is Mono Green again. Rockin' Yisan. Let's get him up. There we go. And we're playing against Edric, Spymaster of Trest. The Oblivion Theory was the opponent. Great sport. I think this is a pretty balanced matchup. Naturally, he has blue, so he's going to be able to do some things that I'm not. But Yisan is much faster than Edric and is a 2-3. So might become relevant at some point that Yisan actually blocks pretty well. Now, the one thing about Edric decks is they can come out of the gate very quickly. So looking at this hand, I have a ton of mana and survival, but I don't have survival doing anything until turn 3, at which point I just go and get a 2-drop. Knowing the deck, there's not really any 2-drops that affect it. Survival's a better mid to late game card in this deck. Nowhere near this duplicate. Corruptor is another potential turn 3 play, but those two plays are competing with Yisan on turn 3 as well. It's not really the place that this hand wants to be, and I want to be in this matchup. So I'm going to mulligan this away into a much better hand. Alright, so I'm missing a second forest, but hopefully that'll rectify itself. This is 3 mana in hand, 1 more, and I have Harmonize, Naturalize if he opens with something like Sylvan Library. So this is definitely where I want to be. Much better 6, and I get a Scry. Edric, mulligans as well, I believe. Yeah, oop, I clicked through it there. It was some big 6-drop, I think, that I pushed to the bottom. Alright, so obviously the play is Llanowar Elves, and I'm going to ship it over. Edric goes with turn 1 Scythe Leopard. Pretty sweet. I love this promo. I have quite a few of them in real life, the John Avon promos. Unfortunately, they do not come in foil in real life, but great artist. If you note, I have John Avon lands as well. I like mine better. So Scythe Leopard is a landfall +1/+1, but it's pretty good in Edric, especially if you play the full fetch suite, because it can attack as a turn 3, or a 3/3 on turn 2. And if you had a fetch land on turn 3 when you play Edric, it's attacking as a 3/3 again. So definitely a respectable start. Feels like a bad modern zoo matchup. Alright, so I draw the Timely Forest here. I really don't want to play Hollow and give him either a wasteland target or send a signal that I'm short on green mana, even though I am, or I was, and make him see the strip mine on this forest is appetizing. So another forest doesn't telegraph that I'm short on lands in my hand, and I should be good for the rest of the game at this point, provided that I can activate Yisan once or twice. So Yisan's in play, and I'm just going to F6 back to my turn. He landfalls into Serum Visions. Boy, was I glad to see this. I was expecting like an unsummon here, which I wouldn't fault him for unsummoning the Yisan, just to delay me from being able to use it. I'd have to decide between it and Harmonize. I'd probably still go with Yisan before he untapped with more blue mana, but that would have been a respectable play as well. So, Serum Visions, bad preordain. I'm sure all of you know it from Modern. And in for 2. And he thinks about it, and the in and out hokey pokey that he's doing with the red zone here makes me think maybe he has a trick off this green mana. Maybe he doesn't, and then he sends in, realizes I'm a 2/3, backs out, and then it's like, oh, well, maybe he won't block thinking I have a trick. And a cool game of mental chicken here, and there's no question, I'm not blocking this. I can take 2 damage. So there we go. I go and get, I play my Hollow, and I just ship it back. I fully intend to activate Yisan, and if he has some trick, I have a plan for that as well. So, Tree Speaker. Now that he doesn't have green mana, now blocking looks more appetizing if he does send in the Scythe Leopard again, because his tricks dwindled from a whole bunch to actual mutagenic growth, I believe, and some weird rebound blue distortion strike. So here I'm going to throw off the block. I just want to clear out his board a little bit, and I have the ability to Yisan in a 1-drop this turn, so he's not. If he can kill Yisan, I'm trading Yisan for one of his cards, but I'm still increasing my mana. Unfortunately, he's not able to do anything. And I drop into play Fendhorn Elves. I'll stop on the deck the next time it comes around, so I can show you. Alright, so first I'm going to lead off on my Wood Elves. So, there's definitely good thought to countering this. There's also thought to letting it resolve, but it's entirely plausible that I do nothing else this turn if I get that forest. I just activate Yisan. So I think he sees his dwindling opportunity to use this mana leak and decides to fire it off now. Little does he know, he has not stopped the Yisan activation. Play the Scrib Ranger. I haven't played a land this turn. Untap my Elves, play the forest. Only 2. How to use Yisan? Well, I can do that same trick on his turn. Scrib Ranger is once per turn, same with Quirion Ranger and Wirewood Symbiote is untap target creature, activate this ability only once each turn. It means once on my turn and once on his, and I have 2 elves. I could do it with a single elf as well. But, so, let's see, he's going to level up, and I expected Edric here, but he goes with the Lorestale Codal instead, and I think this is a nod to the fact that if he plays Edric here, he's not attacking with anything, and he's not attacking with anything next turn because Edric or Jawagra can't get in. So, it's in his best interest here to play something that conceivably might be able to attack through my board next turn, although I think he forgets that Scrib Ranger has protection from blue. So, I'm happy to see the 2/2 pop up. So I'm going to bounce my tapped forest, untap my Llanowar, and in we come with Yisan for 2. There's no question here, it's definitely the Priest of Titania. I'm sitting on 3 lands and Scrib Ranger's eating away at them. So Priest is going to give me 3 from myself and 1 from his Joraga Tree Speaker. Priest counts every elf in play, not just your own. That's why it's the better version of the 2 options for the combo. So I do some thinking, and I think this was the correct decision here. I have enough mana to activate Yisan if he chooses to, if I do it, so. And I have enough for Naturalize. So I have Yisan, Naturalize, and Harmonize, all in this turn. So I decided to fire off the Harmonize here. I really don't want him to untap and have blue-blue up to be able to counter this. This is just as much gas as Yisan is, potentially more. And my god, did it draw me some gas. Lightning Greaves, the only non-tutorable piece in the deck. So, I'm going to Yisan up my next mana, Elvish Archdruid, and that only counts elves I control, unfortunately. And I do some thinking. In comes the Greaves. We'll equip the Archdruid. Now he taps for 1, 2, 3, 4. Man. This disgusting amounts of mana that this deck can produce. And I decided to go with the Yisan play. And really, this is setting myself up for next turn. He's going to have 5 mana, potentially 6. But he only has 3 cards in hand. And my idea here is I can't activate for... I could have bounced the Forest and untapped Yisan, and then just moved the Greaves on the Archdruid and passed. That probably would have been the better play, but I just went for it now. Got out Teamer Sabretooth, and played the Skull Clamp with the 1 floating. Now, I do have the ability on his turn to untap Priest of Titania, and make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. And that should help go to main 2. I decided to move the Greaves over. I'm not untapping the Archdruid because Priest makes more mana anyway, and it's not summoning sick. So, let's protect the Sabretooth. And Sabretooth has the ability to protect anything else on this board. Yisan no longer relevant because I have Greaves. Mostly, the things that I need to protect are my mana Elves. And Elvish Archdruid's important because he is the 5th one, and Priest needs 5 to go off. But it's not an absolute necessity. I can just play Yisan and try to get there off him. I have enough mana to play Yisan, go get a mana elf, and go back up to 5 next turn. If he kills the Archdruid, I can go get the Mystic or the Boreal Druid. Lordscalecoatl draws my card. Oh, well, he draws a card and it grows. Invisible Starker, well, that doesn't win him the game, and it doesn't prevent me from winning the game, so that's fine. And Edric, well, that makes me happy. I don't think he even plays a land this turn. Yeah. He thinks about Lordscalecoatl for a moment, and then realizes I have Pro Blue, and it's not worth sending in. And, alright, land, well, doesn't matter. Tap for a bunch of mana. Sabertooth, bounce Priest, play Priest, Greaves Priest, tap for mana. And at this point, he comments saying, nice combo. I was like, yeah, it really went off. And he's complimenting the deck. And he's like, so what's the win, Craterhoof? And I said, well, I can use Yisan all the way up to Craterhoof, but I'd rather just get Azuri because Azuri does the same thing. He's like, yeah, that makes sense. So we're just making a ton of mana here. I'm going to jump through until I see Yisan starting to activate. You'll see my mana is going down by 4, but then up by 5 per cycle. And now Yisan's going to start getting Elves to increase the speed at which my mana grows. Seedborn Muse, I just needed, I don't have an Elf at 5 right now. There's nothing really enticing at that point. So I decided to go with Seedborn Muse just in case he might have something. I'm going to put Yisan Tooth exactly 3 before I go to combat. Yeah, Yisan to 3 before I go to combat is my plan. So that way, if he has anything that he's trying to do, I can do this combo on his turn. And with Seedborn Muse going to get Yavin Nature's Herald. That's assuming my Dosan doesn't hit play for some reason. Alright, Yisan, going to get my 1-drop, Sylvan Safekeeper. I can use Yisan again, so I wanted to get the ultimate protection for the combo, so that way I don't have to use Yavimaya Hollow to regenerate something. I can just give it Shroud. I build up some more mana. We're going to untap Yisan again. After I build up mana, let's see. There we go, Yisan in. I used Scrib Ranger, that was the first time it was used that turn, to go get my 2. Just getting an elf at this point. I can clamp. I have the option to clamp the elf because I can bounce the Archdruid with the Temur Sabertooth and draw 2 additional cards, but I'd rather just have my mana increase at a faster rate each time. So I'm going to produce more mana, go and get Azuri. So now all of my elves have regenerate, so I can just tap them out and then use Temur Sabertooth to untap them. These 2 elves will not be leaving play under any circumstances, though, because those are the ones I need to actually win the game. Well, theoretically, I only need 1 with Lightning Greaves on it, but redundancy favors, or victory favors those who build in redundancy into their plans. So I go get the Symbiote, and Symbiote is the last nail in the coffin, because now I can use Symbiote to untap Yisan by bouncing my tapped Priest. Use Temur Sabertooth to bounce Wirewood Symbiote. Now Symbiote you can only use once each turn, but that's each time that it's entered play, because each time it's a new card effectively. So Priest makes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 per cycle. Costs 2 to play itself, 2 for Sabertooth, or 2 to play itself, so 5, 1 for Symbiote, that's 4, 2 for 2 for bouncing Symbiote, that's 2, so I'm netting 2 mana per cycle, which will effectively start adding up into Yisan activations. Every other cycle is a Yisan activation plus 1. So I go and get my 2, I just go for the Preserver here to increase my elf count. Now I'm getting a Yisan activation and no mana netted per cycle, theoretically. And Yisan for 3, slam Dosan into play. And when I activated Yisan for 3 that time, he did wait for about 30 seconds. If you notice, he lost a bigger chunk of time. Prior to that, he had been F8'd. I think he was like watching the combo go off. Dosan is the nail because it prevents him from being able to cast any spells, and none of his creatures have activated abilities. So, create a whole ton of mana, and I think when I get to 30 up here, what's my plan? Yeah, I build up a few times, create mana. I get everything to about 20 power. And Greaves allows one additional creature to get in, so that will be Azuri himself getting into the red zone. It's most beneficial to have Azuri have Shroud, because he can protect everything else, so you need to protect him when the combo starts to go off. So, tap a ton of mana, dump more in, and then the last part of the combo is replaying Priest and making sure that Priest is untapped. So that way, in situations where you don't have Dosan, you want to have the Priest untapped. So that way, if something happens, you can go to main 2 and put your entire deck into play, Terrastodon all of his non-land permanents, Terrastodon or Woodfall Primus more ideally, all of his non-land permanents, and just guarantee that you're going to get another untap. So Priest is the way to guarantee that that happens, and making sure she's untapped and you have Greaves. And naturally, that only matters if you somehow were not able to get Dosan out into play. So that is the combo. Now I'm leaving Wirewood Samira in hand, it doesn't really matter. And here we go, a 30-30, a 29-29, and a 29-29. Pumped a ton of times, and I have Archdruid in play. So that is the game, guys. I crack in. What do we get? -48. Really cool sport, Oblivion Theory. Like, wanted to see the combo go off. He said he really enjoyed the deck. I was talking to him about it. I was like, yeah, I think it's probably one of the top tier mono green decks. Because if I can get turn 1 or 2 Yisan the Wanderer Bard, not too many decks can keep pace with me putting a creature into play every turn. Because at a certain point you're paying 3 mana for a 4 mana guy out of your deck, and that's a very potent ability. It doesn't seem great initially, but you add in these untapping effects, and Yisan activations twice a turn will put the opponent under such a crazy amount of pressure that they can't really do anything. I think even if he had a land that turn and he was able to cast something else from his hand, I don't know if it would have mattered in the long run, because Sabretooth protected the entire combo, and Sabretooth itself was protected by Greaves. So his only way to stop that would have been Lightning Greaves at that point. And in that situation, I think I could still do a crazy overrun, just not as effective. Hope you guys enjoy. This one is thankfully a bit shorter. I hope to see you guys in the next one then. Remember to like, subscribe for new videos. I try to get them up whenever I can. I haven't had any decent games in the last couple days besides this one and the second Yisan video I uploaded. I think this is the third. Some players will auto-concede when they see it's Yisan and they see him start going crazy. If they can't stop my first activation or second activation, they'll generally concede immediately after that. He's definitely more under the radar than something like my Vendilion Click deck is, whereas Vendilion Click, if they're getting beat down, I counter 2 of their things. Most players tend to concede at that point, even when they still have something like 4 turns left before the Click would kill them. This does come out of nowhere. Naturally, I would have expected him to know the combo as soon as Sabretooth came down, but because the deck is such a dark horse right now, some people aren't aware of the interaction between Priest, Sabretooth, and Greaves. And I know all of you are going to say, well, it's a 6-card combo. You need Greaves, or a 7-card combo. You need Greaves, Sabretooth, Priest, and 4 other elves. But the thing is, Yisan gets all of those except 1 card. So it's really a combo between Yisan and Lightning Greaves, because he does all the heavy lifting getting the combo into play. And that's the real strength of him. Like I said, see you guys in the next one.